as many of you will have noticed, that Fair Trading have issued some information this week, and what they've issued is about changes to the Property and Stock Agents Regulation. Now, lots of us had the opportunity to make comment on the changes, and a number of people did, not a huge number, I don't think, but certainly we all had that opportunity as stakeholders in the industry. Now, these changes to the regulations will come into effect tomorrow, the 1st of September. So whenever you're watching this, but it's coming into effect on the 1st of September. Now, one of the main areas, now we're going to go through I'm not going to go through all of the changes because we'll do a newsletter on that and some training sessions around and some videos around that in the next week or so. But one of the main areas, and we often get questions about this, is about is provided about the vendor and the purchaser when an expression of interest deposit has been paid. So now this is set out in Schedule 2 of the Property and Stock Agents Regulation, so it's Clause 5. And what it looks at is the information that needs to be given when an expression of interest deposit is paid. So when an agent actually issues a receipt for an expression of interest deposit, which is made prior to the exchange of contracts, so it's not for the exchange of contracts, it is made prior to the exchange of contracts, the agent must inform that person who paid the deposit that the vendor has no obligation to sell the property or the business, and the purchaser has no obligation to buy the property or the business. The deposit is fully refundable if a contract for the sale of the property is not, or business, is not entered into. Okay, so it's kind of saying, hey, I'm interested. Tell me if somebody else gets interested. But you certainly, people are showing some real interest as opposed to, house brick kicking, as I refer to it. Okay, now this information needs to be provided in writing. Okay, so, we all say, oh, yes, we picked up the phone, we told that person, we may or may not have put a file note in, we may or may not have sent it via text, but, it needs to be in writing that is the purpose of an expression of interest deposit when one is made. Okay, so now it says must promptly inform. So, okay, so that would be as soon as you've done it. You might ring up and say it first to your vendor to say, hey, look, we've got some real interest here. Someone's showing real interest because they've put some dollars on the table. Now, what these updated regulations actually clarify, so agents must only accept an expression of interest deposit from a consumer after the consumer signs a written statement declaring the agent has informed them of certain information and that they understand that information. Okay, and that information is about that it is refundable, that it doesn't take the property off the market, all of those things that I just said before. So, and it requires the vendor's agent to refund that expression of interest deposit within 14 days if another person enters into a sales contract. Now, what this does, a lot of people say, oh, but that allows for gazumping. Well, gazumping will happen, or that form of a better offer will come in whether there's an expression of interest deposit paid or not. But if an agent chooses or a purchaser insists upon paying an expression of interest deposit, then this is the process that needs to be followed. Many agents say, yeah, not worth it, not doing it, sign the contract, pay me the deposit, let's get on, let's exchange the contract. And fair call, because that gives some surety to your vendor. And remember, if you're the selling agent, that's who your client is. And acting in their best interest is about giving them some surety about that property being sold. So the reality of these arrangements for an agency is that there's a process that needs to be followed if the agency is accepting the expression of interest deposit. So if you go down that path, or if your agency goes down that path, you need to follow these processes that we've just talked about. So you must ensure that the information set out in Clause 5 is provided in writing, that the vendor is acknowledging, so the person paying the expression of interest deposit, so the purchaser, is acknowledging the terms of that payment. That's similar to your vendor acknowledging that they've accepted, that they received the agency agreement consumer guide. So no real difference there. So what this new or amended regulation gives us is some clarity of when that expression of interest deposit is to be paid. And if somebody else pays another one, we've now got that clarity around the 14 days of that contract being entered into. So, it's a good change. It's a clarification change. And that's what we usually get when we get some minor amendments to regulations. They're clarifications when people, and often it's the consumer, who's made complaints to Fair Trading saying, yeah, this didn't make sense, or the agent was telling me the wrong thing. And the agent, on the majority of occasions, has not done the wrong thing. It's just that the consumer doesn't understand that process, and perhaps it wasn't as transparent as it could have been. So it's not about agents doing the wrong thing that, often we get these clarifications or amendments to regulation. It's just about that clarity and mostly from a consumer perspective. So guys, look out for that one. We'll be doing the newsletter this fortnight, which comes out this Friday, on this issue. So some more clarity and some more defining information around that. So we've just finished writing that, ready to roll out on the newsletter day, which is this Friday. So guys, that's a good change.